You know that feeling when you are just grinding. I mean, you're putting in the hours, writing the posts, building the thing, showing up every single day.
Mm,
But the needle is just, it's stuck. It's not
right.
moving. It
Well,
feels like you're running in quicksand. And, naturally, you start looking around for something to blame. You look at the algorithm. It must be shadow banning me. You look at the market, the economy, your own luck.
oh, absolutely. It's the universal creative condition. The universe is conspiring against my success. We've all been there.
Exactly. And usually, when I hit that wall, my instinct is to look for a hack. I need a new tool. I need a better hashtag strategy. I need to wake up at 4 a.m. instead of 5 a.m.
Right, the tactical fixes.
Yes. But today we're looking at something that suggests the problem isn't external at all. We're diving into the Creators Lab episode 11, specifically a segment called You're Not Stuck, You're Undefined. And I have to say, reading this, it was a bit of a slap in the face.
It's not a comforting read, is it?
It's
Words
not.
are harsh.
It is. Because the core premise is basically, it's not the algorithm and it's not bad luck, it's you. Or, well, it's a lack of definition in what you're doing. You aren't stuck, you just haven't actually decided what you are.
And that distinction is crucial because stuck implies you're a victim of circumstance.
Right.
Undefined implies you have a strategic problem that you can actually fix. But fixing it requires doing something that feels incredibly dangerous to most people.
Right. So let's get into this, because undefined sounds a little abstract, like something a guidance counselor would tell you.
Yeah, you're just finding yourself.
Exactly. But in a business context, this is deadly. The source material uses this metaphor of the fog.
The fog is a perfect way to visualize it. I mean, imagine you're walking through a dense fog. You can't see where you're going, which is bad enough. But more importantly, nobody else can see you.
You're invisible.
You are effectively invisible. And the argument here is that most people operating in this space, freelancers, consultants, content creators, they're living in this fog. They're projecting vagueness.
Okay, let's ground this with an example, because I think we all know this person. Let's call him Alex. Alex is a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You see his bio, you ask, hey, Alex, what do you do? And he says,
I help people unlock their potential. Or I talk about mindset and growth.
or the classic, I teach business.
Right. And here's the problem. Alex thinks he's being professional. He thinks he's casting a wide net. But to you, the person listening, what does I help people grow actually mean? Are you a gardener, a pediatrician, a hedge fund manager?
It's just noise. My brain literally just slides off the sentence.
That's the neuroscience of it, essentially. Our brains are designed to filter out irrelevant noise to conserve energy.
Okay.
And when you present yourself with a vague statement like, I optimize lives, the brain classifies that as low priority noise and just discards it.
Yeah.
You haven't given it a hook to hang the information on.
So Alex is standing there in the fog, screaming, I help everyone, and wondering why nobody is listening.
Precisely. And the analysis here is that these statements fail because they lack answers to 3 specific questions. If you're operating without these answers, you are undefined. You're in the fog.
Okay, what are the 3 questions?
Question 1, who exactly am I for? Question 2, what transformation do I specialize in? And question 3, what problem do I own?
What problem do I own? That's interesting phrasing. It's not just what problem do I solve, it's what problem do I own?
Yeah, ownership implies territory. If you say, I talk about mindset, you don't own that. It's a huge generic topic. You're just a tourist in the land of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, I own the problem of imposter syndrome for first-time CTOs, suddenly you have territory. You're the mayor of that problem.
But here's where I get stuck.
Yeah.
And where I think a lot of our listeners get stuck. I get the logic. Be specific. Got it.
Oh.
But emotionally, that feels terrifying.
It does.
If I define myself as the imposter syndrome for CTOs guy,
Yeah.
haven't I just cut off 99.9% of the population?
Yeah.
And that's bad. I have a mortgage. I have bills. The idea of turning away business feels like suicide. Why is this safety trap so dangerous if it keeps my options open?
Well, this is the paradox. We choose to be vague because it feels safe. It's a defense mechanism. We think, if I say I teach business, then every business owner is a potential client.
Right.
We are optimizing for optionality. But the market doesn't pay for optionality. It pays for solutions.
So by trying to eliminate no one, we actually attract no one.
Exactly. Let's look at the career switcher example from the breakdown because it illustrates the math of this really, really well.
Yeah, walk us through that.
Okay, so option A, you position yourself as a generic career coach. I help you advance your career.
Okay.
Theoretically, your total addressable market is everyone with a job, hundreds of millions of people.
A huge market. Sounds great.
But you are competing against every other career coach, every HR department, every self-help book. You're a drop of water in the ocean, unnoticeable.
Hmm.
Now, look at option B, you say. I help career switchers land tech jobs in 90 days.
Okay. That is hyper-specific.
It is. And immediately, you have eliminated probably 90 to 95% of the workforce. If I'm a happy accountant, I'm gone. If I'm a nurse who loves her job, I'm gone. You have burned those bridges.
And that's the fear. I'm just looking at all those people walking away.
But look at who is left.
Huh.
That remaining 5%.
Yeah.
The people who hate their jobs and desperately want to break into tech but don't know how, they aren't just interested.
They're captivated.
They're captivated. To them, you aren't just another coach. You are the solution. You are the lighthouse in the fog.
I see. So the generic coach is like a candle in a brightly lit stadium. Nobody sees it. The specific coach is a lighthouse on a dark coast. It only matters to the ships near the coast, but to those ships, it's a matter of life and death.
Exactly. And you have to be willing to risk the 90% to get the 10%.
Yeah.
Because the 90% were never going to buy from you anyway. They were just traffic. They weren't leads.
That's a hard pill to swallow, though, realizing that the potential audience you thought you had was never actually there.
It's the ego death of the entrepreneur. You have to admit you aren't for everyone. But once you do, you unlock something that the material calls the speed of authority.
Speed of authority. That sounds like a metric.
It basically is. I mean, think about it this way. If you have a specific weird pain in your knee, it clicks every time you run downhill.
Right.
And you go to a general practitioner, they say, yeah, take some Advil, rest it. You trust them, sort of. But you're probably going to go get a second opinion.
Yeah, I'm Googling it the second I leave the office.
Right. But if you find a website for a doctor that says, I specialize in runner's knee and downhill impact injuries, and they describe your exact clicking sound, how fast do you trust that person?
Instantly. I mean, I'm booking the appointment before I even finish reading the page.
That is speed of authority. When you're specific, the audience assumes you're an expert. When you're general, you have to prove you're an expert.
Right.
And proving it takes time, content, effort. Specificity is a shortcut to trust.
So if I want trust now, and I do because I want to make sales now, I can't be a generalist. Broad competence breeds skepticism. Specific expertise breeds trust.
Precisely. If you say, I can do everything, the client hears, I am desperate for work. If you say, I do this one thing extremely well, the client hears, I am a master.
Okay, I'm starting to buy into the philosophy, but I want to play devil's advocate for a second. What if I really am multi-passionate? What if I genuinely love talking about productivity and shooking and coding? Am I not allowed to be a Renaissance person?
You can be whatever you want, but we're talking about positioning, not your personal identity. The problem shows up in what the material calls the random feed. This is the symptom of the undefined creator.
Is this the slot machine effect?
Yes. Go look at your content output, or look at Alex's feed. On Monday, he posts a quote about stoicism. On Tuesday, it's a review of a new productivity app.
Wednesday is a picture of his lunch.
Right, with a caption about fueling the body. On Thursday, it's just generic business advice.
I see this all the time. It feels like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks.
They are, and they call it variety, but the audience calls it confusion. The material describes this as having no spine. There's no backbone holding the body of work together.
Gross spine. That's harsh.
It is, but it's accurate. Because audiences do not follow random topics, they follow clarity. If I subscribe to you because of that great post about coding and tomorrow you're talking about your lasagna recipe, I'm not just bored, I'm confused. I don't know what I signed up for. And when people are confused, they don't buy and they don't follow.
So having a spine doesn't mean you can only talk about one boring thing forever. It just means everything needs to connect back to that central definition.
Correct. Let's go back to our career switcher into tech example. Can that person talk about mindset?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But it has to be the mindset of breaking into a new industry. Can they talk about productivity? Yes. But it should be productivity for the job hunt. The lens is always fixed, even if the subject matter shifts a bit. The spine is always there.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the illness, we know what the fog is, we know why we stay in it, and we know the symptoms. Now we need the cure. And the source provides a definition test.
This is the actionable part, and I really want the listener to actually try this right now. Don't just nod along.
Yeah, pull over if you're driving, or just pause this for a second.
The test is a single sentence formula. I help blank achieve blank by blank.
I help target audience achieve result by method.
Simple, right. But here's the constraint that kills people. You have to be able to fill this out in under 10 seconds.
10 seconds, that's nothing.
If you have to think about it, you fail. If you have to say, well, it's mostly for small businesses, but I also work with individuals, you fail.
Okay, let me try. Let's say I'm starting a podcast consulting business. Ready? Go. People who want to start podcasts, create better audio by editing their shows.
See, you stumbled, you hesitated, and in that hesitation, you lost the client.
That was painful. I felt the friction in my own brain.
That friction is a lack of definition. You haven't internalized it. If you can't say it in 10 seconds, it means you don't actually know it.
Right.
And if you don't know it, you certainly can't communicate it to a stranger scrolling through their feed at 100 miles an hour.
So a passing grade would be something like, I help B2B founders launch top 1% podcasts by managing the entire production pipeline.
Boom! Clear audience, B2B founders, clear result, top 1% podcast, clear method, managing production, and you said it with conviction.
Okay, so let's say the listener takes the test and they fail. They realize, I'm undefined. And they're thinking, okay, I need to niche down. But that sounds like a lot of work. Is it really worth the hassle?
It's not just worth it. It's the only way to stop working so hard for such little result. The material talks about this idea of harder work versus the ripple effect.
Explain harder work.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm already working pretty hard.
Yeah. When you're undefined, when you're Alex the generic coach, every single piece of content you create has to work in isolation. You have to capture attention, explain who you are, explain why it matters, and provide value all from scratch, every single time.
Because there's no context.
No context. It's like starting a conversation with a stranger every single day. You never get past the small talk.
You're constantly reintroducing yourself. That's exhausting.
It is. But when you shift to being defined, you trigger the ripple effect.
So how does that work mechanically? Let's stick with our tech career switcher coach.
Okay, so you've defined yourself. Now you sit down to write a newsletter. You don't have to stare at a blank page wondering, what should I write about today? You know exactly what problems your audience has.
They're worried about their resume.
Their resume, technical interviews, being too old, the topics just list themselves.
So content ideation becomes automatic.
Right. And then look at your offers. If you're generic, what do you sell? Coaching, time. That's hard to sell. But if you're the tech switcher guy, the offer is obvious. The 90-day tech resume overhaul, or mock interview bootcamp.
And those are so much easier to buy. I know exactly what I'm getting.
That's the ripple effect. Clarity upstream creates speed downstream. Your marketing gets sharper, your copy gets punchier, your conversion rates go up because people feel like you're reading their minds.
And this leads to what the material calls compounding.
Yes, this is the holy grail. When you have a spine, your content compounds. The post you wrote 3 months ago about how to negotiate a junior dev salary is still relevant today. It supports the post you wrote today about finding a mentor.
You're building a library, a resource.
Exactly. You're building a library. The generic creator is just building a pile of unrelated bricks.
And a pile of bricks is just rubble.
It's rubble, but if you organize them, you build a cathedral. You want to build a cathedral of authority. And you can't do that if you're swapping out the blueprints every week.
I love that image. But I want to circle back to the fear one last time. Because I know people are listening thinking, okay, I get it, but if I define myself this narrowly, won't I get bored? Won't I run out of things to say?
That is a common fear, but the reality is usually the opposite. When you go deep, the world gets bigger, not smaller. You stop talking about the surface level stuff everyone else is talking about, and you start finding the nuance, the interesting edge cases.
You become a true expert rather than just a reporter.
Yes, and honestly, if you get bored helping people solve a specific, painful problem that changes their lives, then maybe you're in the wrong business.
That's a great point.
The satisfaction comes from the impact, not just the novelty of talking about random stuff.
The goal isn't just to entertain yourself, it's to provide value. And value comes from precision.
Precision is value. Nobody pays for general wellness. They pay to fix the back pain that keeps them up at night.
So if we recap, we started with that feeling of being stuck. The spinning wheels. And the diagnosis is that we aren't stuck, we're undefined, we're hiding in the fog because it feels safe, but that safety is a trap that keeps us invisible.
And the way out is to take the definition test, to have the courage to answer those 3 questions. Who is it for? What is the transformation? What problem do I own?
And to do it in under 10 seconds. If you can't do it fast, you're not done.
Keep refining it until it's a reflex.
Before we sign off, we always like to leave the listener with something a little provocative. A final thought to chew on.
We talked a lot about the math of elimination. that 90-10 rule. And I want to challenge you to really sit with that.
The idea that you have to delete 90% of your audience.
Yes. So here is the question. If you woke up tomorrow and you were forced, absolutely forced, to delete 90% of your potential market, to ban them from ever buying from you, and you could only keep 10%, who would be the ones left standing?
Who are the people you actually want to serve?
And more importantly, are you building your business for them right now? Or are you just diluting everything to try and please the 90% that you don't even need?
That is a scary question. But I think if you can answer it, you find your definition.
And once you have your definition, you're not stuck anymore. You're just moving.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Go define yourself. We'll see you next time.